What's up everyone, this is NK and welcome back to ThinkView. As you may have known, we have just come back from WWDC this year and we've seen a lot of awesome things there. And one of those amazing things was the new iPadOS. Anyways, I have been using iPadOS 26 for the past couple weeks. And honestly, this is the most streamlined iPadOS experience I have ever had for getting work done. And throughout that time, I barely encountered any bugs or janky behavior. It just works.
It just all worked. It just worked. They just work.
And in today's videos, I will share you exactly how iPadOS 26 performs, what it does well, and what still need to improve, and whether it's finally good enough to rely on for work. Now, let's get into the details. So, there are three key things that an operating system needs to good at in order to support for proper workflow. The first is multitasking and Windows management. The second is the support for productivity apps. And third is the proper file manager. And those were the three areas where Apple made major upgrade in the iPadOS 26. So, let's break it down one by one. So this year, iPadOS 26 now includes windowing system in addition to Stage Manager, which we already had before. And to activate this new window mode, just swipe up from the bottom right corner. You can now freely move and layer multiple app windows on top of each other. 5, 6, even 10 at once without being limited to just 4 like the old Stage Manager. Basically, it feels just like using macOS. I know that some of you may say that the iPad screen is too small for multitasking, like whoever needs 10 tabs in such an 11-inch screen, right? But I think that Apple clearly thought about that. iPadOS 26 adds new gesture to make multitasking more intuitive with touch input. For example, if you are working with dozens of apps, you can just swipe slightly up, then your active app pop up into the corner. And then you can pull up the secondary app like Telegram or messaging app, have a quick chat, and then return to your primary app again. You see that iPadOS 26 remembered the position of each windows, so everything just snaps back into place. There are also a smart gesture, like if you want more space for one window while multitasking, just fling it into the corner and it expands to cover half of the screen. I use it all the time when I'm switching between secondary apps like ChatGPT, Lark, or Notion, or even Apple Note. So when I think of multitasking, it isn't about running multiple apps at once, but more about having a back and front task, like a primary app and a secondary app. And this new windowing system makes switching between the primary app and the secondary app or managing those tasks way smoother compared to the old Stage Manager, which always taken up a huge portion of space on the left of your screen, which might be okay if you're working on a 24 or 27-inch monitor, but kinda inconvenient when you use it on a small screen of an iPad. And to me, the new system feels much more practical for mobile use, especially for multitasking on a small screen like an iPad. And if you open two apps side by side, now on iPadOS 26 you have a feature called Windows Tiling, just like what on macOS. You get the familiar red, yellow, green button on the top left corner, and when you hold on them, you will see a layout option for splitting the windows into half, third, or even fourth. One little fun fact is that on macOS you cannot split the windows into 3 like this, but on iPadOS can. Now speaking of productivity, only iPad Air and iPad Pro models support for true extended display mode. That is 2 different things on 2 different screens. This is a huge win for multitasking because now you can drag and drop apps between the iPad and the monitor seamlessly. And for the regular iPad and iPad mini, they still use the mirroring mode instead of the extended display, and it's also capped as just Full HD resolution. I mean, it's still useful since it gives you more screen space, but you will see those annoying black bar on both sides because of incompatible ratio scaling. So, I mean, if you want to output to another display, the iPad and iPad mini still can do it. But in order to get the true extended display, you still have to go with iPad Air and iPad Pro. The second thing that you will need for real work done is a proper app support. And on iPadOS 26, this has improved a lot. Now, if you're downloading something from Safari or rendering a project in Final Cut Pro or CapCut, there's a little pop-up showing the progress, and you can switch to other tasks and apps without interrupting the process. That's something wasn't possible before. And this year, each app also gets a menu bar at the top, just like what we have on macOS. And another thing that I've noticed is that the application here is more stable now. No more bug with things like zooming in Safari or Facebook usually get some unexpected error. Now, everything works smoothly, from resizing to scrolling and layout, almost exactly like macOS. Plus, many apps now using the liquid glass interface, buttons are more popped up. It's easier to tap and everything feels just more refined. Even when you're multitasking with several windows, the tabs are nicely separated and not visually cluttered like before. For someone like me who do most of his work on Safari and some native app, the experience is just like macOS. And finally, the file management hasn't changed drastically, but it has gotten more convenient now. You can now drag the folder directly to the dock for quick access instead of having to open the file app and dig through the directories. Now, just tap the folder and it pops open, just like on macOS. You can now drag the file straight into the app that you are working in, which is super handy. And you can customize folder with color and even the folder icon to keep things organized. Now, to sum it all up, with iPadOS 26, Apple have finally turned the iPad into one of the most versatile devices in the ecosystem, something you can play on, study on, and now, finally, work on. In the past, iPad was really great for entertainment and fun and maybe some light productivity. I love studying on my iPad, but not for serious work. However, it's all changed now. Personally, I think that working on this iPad is way more better now. Sure, you will still need to adjust your habit a bit, like using a keyboard, a trackpad, and a touchscreen in combination, but once you get used to it, it's surprisingly powerful. In fact, for most of my work, mostly content creation, I barely need to touch my MacBook. Unless you're doing some professional level work, like advanced video editing or software development, or you have to take the full advantage of the Office suite on Windows. The iPadOS 26 really closed the gap between the two operating systems. And for everything else, it's a huge step forward. But what do you think about the new iPadOS? Let me know in the comment section, okay? Now, thanks for watching. This is NK from ThinkView, and see you guys next time.